Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Ballava Giridhanadari Jaya Gopijana Ballava Giridhanadari Yasuranandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasuranandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Ballava Giridhanadari Jaya Gopijana Ballava Giridhanadari Yasuranandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasuranandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Lalita Vishaka, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Lalita Vishaka, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya and Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Alrighty, I think we are on chapter 6, text 4. Oh, good, we're on the same page. Yadā hi nendriyā-artheṣu na karmasv anuṣajate sarva-saṅkalpa-sannyāsī yogārūḍhas tadocyate yadā hi nendriyā-artheṣu na karmasv anuṣajjate sarva-saṅkalpa-sannyāsī yogārūḍhas tadocyate yadā hi nendriyā-artheṣu na karmasv anuṣajjate sarva-saṅkalpa-sannyāsī yogārūḍhas tadocyate Yadā hi nendriyārtheṣu na karmasv anuṣajjate sarva-saṅkalpa-sannyāsī yogā-ārūḍhas tadocyate yadā hi nendriyā-artheṣu na karmasv anuṣajjate sarva-saṅkalpa-sannyāsī yogā-ārūḍhas tadocyate yadā hi nendriyā-artheṣu na karmasv anuṣajjate sarva-saṅkalpa-sannyāsī yogā-ārūḍhas tadocyate indriya-artheṣu na karmasv anuṣajate sarva-saṅkalpa-sannyāsī yogā-ārūḍhas tadocyate yadā hi nendriyā-artheṣu na karmasv anuṣajate sarva-saṅkalpa-sannyāsī yogā-ārūḍhas tadocyate yadā, when, he, certainly, na, not, indriya-artheṣu, in sense gratification, na, never, karmasv, in fruitive activities, anuṣajjate, one necessarily engages, sarva-saṅkalpa, of all material desires, sannyāsī, renouncer, yogā-ārūḍhaḥ, elevated in yoga, tadā, at that time, ucyate, is said to be. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. Please repeat. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. When a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. Otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification. Since one cannot live without engagement, without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. But a Krishna conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. One who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung of the yoga ladder. Om Gira Timirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chaksumilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadam Mayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Barakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shirupam sagrajadam sahagana raghunattam vitam tam sajivam sadvaitam sadvarutam parijana sahitam Krishna chaitanya devam Shri Radha Krishna padam sahagana lalita Shri Vishaka vidamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So Krishna has dedicated this subject of Dana Yoga or Astanga Yoga in this chapter 6. In the previous ages, this was a recommended process for self-realization. Actually, the Eightfold Yoga system is a beginning process. It helps control the mind and bodily and even emotions, though in this age it's not recommended as a spiritual process. Actually, it can be beneficial as a physical way. You see a lot of people doing yoga these days. Or it can be another distraction from the path of bhakti. Actually, there's a lot of things that are more convenient now than they were in previous ages. Like, for example, elevator. You can take an elevator now up several flights of stairs. In previous times, you had to walk those stairs. So this yoga process is very difficult. But by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's given this process to make the process of Krishna consciousness so much easier for us. So Dana Yoga is about redirecting the senses. Generally, the senses, they go outwards, right? The sense are looking for the sense objects. The eyes are looking for something to eat. The ears are listening for different sound vibrations and so forth. But the Eightfold Yoga system starts with controlling the external body with the yama. And nirayama is a gradual process. Asana is learning how to control bodily parts, and then controlling the breath. There's 3 phases to the breath. There's the incoming breath, the outgoing breath, and then retaining the breath. You know, we know about Dhruva Maharaj. When he started on the yoga path, and he first started eating less and less, and then he started standing on one leg, and then he started drinking less and less, and when he started breathing less and less, the whole planet went off its axis. It tilted. And the demigods had trouble breathing. So the demigods went to Vishnu. And something's wrong here. We can't breathe. It's because that's how powerful the breath is with a yogi. Dhruva had limited his breathing so much that the demigods even went to Vishnu. Hiranyakasipu did the same thing. And Lord Brahma succumbed to his demands because he became fearful of him, because of how powerful he became in this yoga process. And but it's a very difficult process. Not just anyone can do it, especially in this age. I know we see a lot of yogis coming into the MVT. And, I can't say they really are yogis, but... Then there's pratyahara. The yogi withdraws his external senses and consciousness. And then the dharana, the stage, they are concentrating their consciousness. And dhyana is meditation. and then ultimately it's the samadhi stage. So these are the stages that actually we go through, but in a different way. Arjuna's, Krishna's very dear friend, very powerful friend. Arjuna was the most powerful warrior at that time. And when Krishna presented this process to him, what did he say? No, this isn't for me. It's too difficult. So what to say of people today? I know we should do preaching in Santa Barbara to the yoga studios. And actually, I found that the most challenging of all preaching. Because these yogis, even though they weren't really yogis, they thought they knew more than anybody else when it came to spiritual life. So it was very challenging, and to try and encourage them in any kind of spiritual practice. And Srila Prabhupada says in the Purport, he says, when a person is fully engaged in the transcendental living service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he no longer engages in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. This is a system of advancement in spiritual life. We take care of our bodily needs, but we do not absorb ourselves in satisfying the senses. There's no hankering or lamenting for sense pleasure. We have a responsibility, though, to take care of this vehicle. In Hawaii, Prabhupada gave a list of things the devotees should be doing. And the first thing on the list was taking care of the body. And if we take the example of sleep, Prabhupada has stated that everybody's a little different. So he recommends between 5 and 7 hours per night. In London in 1971, Prabhupada said, one should not sleep more than 5 or 6 hours. Minimize as far as possible. The Goswamis used to sleep not more than 1.5 or 2 hours. Sleeping is not a very important thing. Even big politicians, they used to sleep for only 2 hours. And it's funny, one time when George Harrison came to visit Srila Prabhupada, and he told Srila Prabhupada, he says, I don't like sleeping very much. And Prabhupada says, oh, I don't either. And so another time Prabhupada said, we are all Kumbhakarnas. Anyone who sleeps more than 6 or 7 hours, he is a Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna was the brother of Ravana. He was sleeping 6 months, and 6 months he was awake. That makes like 12 hours a day. Yes, the point is that we should not eat more than required. Eating, sleeping, mating, all these are material demands. The more we minimize, then that is good, but not at the risk of health. And that's where we have to keep the balance. We don't risk our health because we have to work for Kṛṣṇa. So we must maintain our health nicely, but we should not eat more than is required for maintaining body and soul together. That is the principle. It does not mean, however, that if someone's body requires more food for maintaining it, that he should imitate someone who requires less food. The real point is that eating is for maintaining the body, not for luxury or for satisfying the demands of the tongue. So eating and sleeping are similar. It's a personal type thing that everyone has to make that determination for themselves, whether they're a large person, small person, whether they're sick, or they maybe have some health issues, or there's so many reasons. It's all very personal. However, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he was very critical when any of his disciples started to get fat. He said it was leading to lust and laziness. It's generally a system of eating too much. Once when Srila Prabhupada was visiting one temple, there's the two pujaris. One came in and complained about the other, and then when he left, the other one came in and complained about the first one. So Prabhupada had them both come in, and he told them, you two are eating too much Mahaprasadam. And that's another thing, Mahaprasadam is meant for the Supreme Lord. It's nice to take a small bit, but we should not have a diet of Mahaprasadam. It's not meant for human consumption. It's meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the early years, Prabhupada really encouraged the new devotees to eat a lot of prasadam. Prasadam is purifying. It's very good in that way. He was like a Bengali mother, take more, have another chapati. He was very encouraging of them. But as time went on, he encouraged them to become more austere. When he took the devotees to India, and they would have these Namahata programs, and people would serve wonderful feasts to the devotees late at night after the program. And it became problematic. The devotees were getting sick, and they were having a hard time getting up in the morning for Mangalarti. They were having a really hard time staying awake for Bhagavatam class. And Prabhupada started to encourage them, you need to eat a lot less, especially at night. And then, of course, Srila Rupa Goswami in the Upadeshamrita, his first verse is Vacho Vegam Manasakroda Vegam Jiva Vegam Uddapasta Vegam, is that one must control the tongue. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. And even just in the lecture Prabhupada gave yesterday morning, he said, everyone should become a spiritual master, especially the Indians. Did you hear that? He said that. And so this is the system, is that by learning to control the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, one is qualified then. This is the qualification. And it's for everyone. Everyone must learn to control their senses. And then Srila Rupa Goswami goes on to explain that one's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. And the first one is eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations for only the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. So Srila Prabhupada says one is always engaged in some activity. We have to be aware enough, and we have to understand our own motivations in our activities. The mind is tricky, but by this sincere chanting of our rounds, we are connecting to Krishna, and Krishna will guide us nicely. So it always comes back to our chanting. The quality of our rounds will reflect the quality of our consciousness, and that will reflect the quality of our spiritual life. So it's very important that we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Srila Prabhupada was a perfect example of this. He accomplished so much. It's incomprehensible for a man of his age what he had done. And but he never bragged about his accomplishments. He was never post. Of course, we didn't have internet, but you never see Prabhupada posting, well, I've done this, I've done that. He would always say it was Krishna. It was due to the mercy of his spiritual master. So personally, we have nothing to be proud of, because everything or anything that we've had any part in accomplishing is only due to the mercy of the spiritual master. He empowers the devotees. Mother Yasoda, and who's dearer to Krishna, especially in his Kumar years, than Mother Yasoda? And this month is Kartik, of course. It glorifies her pastimes with Krishna. But when she came in and saw this terrible mess that Krishna made, and then invited the monkeys in to make it even worse, she became horrified. It was true. It was true what the neighbors were coming and telling and complaining to her, that her son was breaking their yogurt parts and stealing their butter. It turned out to be true. So it was really shocking to her, and she became really concerned that her little boy, her son of Nanda Maharaj, and her would grow up to have some defected character. So she became very concerned. She had to do something as a responsible parent. When you're a parent, you worry like that. You want your children to be as as good as possible, better than you even. So immediately she grabs this stick and she starts chasing him. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's created everything. And she's chasing the Supreme Yogeshwar. And she's thinking, this is my little boy. And Mother Yasoda, she was a little older. She was middle-aged. She had a bit of weight on her, too. So running was not a very easy thing for her. And she started sweating, and her flowers fell from her hair. Her jewelry got all messed up. And she became very, very exhausted, but still she wasn't giving up. And finally, Krishna let her catch him. But when she caught him and saw his face, his kajal was mixed with his tears running down his sweet little lotus face. And she became, oh no, he's crying, he's afraid of me? I can't have that. So, but I have to punish it. I have to teach him a lesson here. That's my responsibility as a mata. So, so then she proceeded to try and tie him up, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it was, she gathered up her rope and she tied him, but it was 2 inches too short. By this time, the neighbors are coming to see what is the commotion about. And also, oh, Mother Yasoda caught Krishna stealing butter. Oh, what is she going to do now? So they come over, and then she starts requesting them to help her. Please bring me your ropes so we can tie Krishna up, so we can stop this nonsense of him stealing the butter. So still, she's 2 inches too short. And finally, Krishna has mercy on her, and he allows her to tie him up because of the effort she was putting in. And that's the point. She made the effort, and that's the example for us. We need to make the effort to be Krishna conscious. And then it's through that and through the mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master we'll achieve success. Actually, the energy creating this movement is coming directly from Srila Prabhupada, even today. He empowers us, and he's such a pure and powerful person, and he had all good qualities in full. There was interesting situation, and this happened twice that I know of. Once it happened in London at a university, and then it happened in California at Stanford University. Now, I'm more familiar with the one event in California at Stanford. If you know Stanford University, you understand it's probably the most exclusive university on the West Coast in America. And it's very expensive. So the students who go there are highly intelligent and very wealthy. And you know, when people have some opulences, they tend to be puffed up. And it's hard for them to take any type of advice or any type of spiritual life because they already think they know so much and they already have so much wealth or opulence. But we learn from distributing books, this in the early years, is that in the early years we'd go to the wealthy areas, think we'd do well distributing books. But I know in my personal experience, I remember one time approaching a lady and offering her book, and she says to me, "What do you want?" Now, I didn't see where she was going, but I just said, "I just wanted to give you a book." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because it will help you in your life." And she said, "All right." And I said, "But I'd like to have a little donation." And she literally gave me 50 cents, which is like 40 rupees. You know, it was a little book too, but still, that was very cheap. And then I watched the lady get into a car where she had a chauffeur. Now, in America, to have a chauffeur is a very wealthy person. So wealthy people tend to be very difficult to communicate with. But Prabhupada was putting on this program at Stanford University. And when he came out and lectured, it was very strong. It was about following the 4 regulative principles. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling. Prabhupada spoke so strongly. And this in America, they think it's their birthright. They think anybody and everybody should be able to do these simple activities. There's no hesitation. And as the devotees, we got a little uncomfortable when Prabhupada talked that way. And that we're afraid, well, maybe people will get up and start leaving. Or maybe they would start yelling at him or something even worse. So we became very uncomfortable. But everybody sat and listened to Prabhupada. And then they had a beautiful ecstatic kirtan after the lecture. And later we asked Prabhupada, why Prabhupada, how is it that people don't get upset when you talk strongly about following the 4 regulative principles? And Prabhupada says, because I have no envy. And what does that mean? I have no envy. It means there's nothing they have that he wants. There's nothing they have that he wants. He only wants Kṛṣṇa. And he's the only one giving. He's giving. There's nothing he's trying to take. So it's true. When we have nothing in this world, we want what is there to be envious of. This is not an external exercise, but it's something, though, that we realize through our personal, because we go internal in our Krishna consciousness, and we become aware of what we're thinking and why we're thinking it, what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we become aware that we are serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotee. And so if we have that humble, sincere attitude to do something to please them, this will give us, it'll bring us to the goal that we're really searching for. So if we're thinking, is this pleasing me or is this pleasing Krishna? Actually, it will please us. It will please us if we are sincerely trying to please Krishna. It's Nitya Hoy Krishna Das. We're the eternal servitor of Krishna. And that's our natural position. So when we are actually trying to please the Supreme Lord, we will actually be able to please Him. Of course, what can we really do? There's what we offer Him are really trinkets, really insignificant things, and there's nothing that we can really give the Supreme Lord other than our hearts, other than devotion. Because there's nothing here in this material world He wants, right? He tells us that in Bhagavad-Gita. There's nothing here for Him. But He really wants us back to home, back to Godhead, more than we want to go. So when we think about Sudama Vipra, and that's kind of interesting, because Sudama Vipra was so poor. His wife was really concerned about him. He was so emaciated. She was concerned about his health. So she's asking him, please, go see your childhood friend Krishna. And please ask him for something. Well, Sudama Vipra had no intention of asking Krishna for anything. He had enough awareness to know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I can't ask Him for anything. I'm very grateful that I have this friendship with Him, so I definitely would like to see Him again. So he was going to go see Dwarkadish in Dwarka. He had to go through like 12 encampments, but before he could even go, he had to think about taking a gift. Even today, you don't go see a friend without some little gift. But he had nothing. He had to beg from his neighbors. And they were all poor people too. So all they could come up with is 3 handfuls of chipped rice. And chipped rice is probably the cheapest thing we could come up with, right? But that was the best they could come up with. So he wrapped it up and he took it to see Krishna. And then when he saw Krishna, and Krishna gets down from the bedstead and comes in and places Sudama, everybody in the palace was amazed. Who is this poor Brahmana who's come to see the Supreme, see Krishna, most opulent Dwarkadish? And he's even hugged him, where he doesn't hug anyone but Balaram, maybe Uddhava. But why is it he's hugged this poor Brahmana? And then they sat and talked about their days at school together and reminisced, had fond memories. Krishna actually, he offered arti. He washed his feet. He rubbed his feet with different oils and scented materials. And he fed him nicely. And Sudama had no intention of bringing out that paltry chipped rice. That was just too meager to offer to Dwarkadish. He saw Dwarkadish in his glory. And he just, have you ever felt like that? You had a gift for someone, it was like so meager you didn't want to give it to him anymore? That's how Sudama felt. He felt this is just, I can't give this to him. But Krishna, he knew it was there. And so he saw and he grabbed it. He says, "Oh, what is this you have for me?" And he opened it up and he took a bite. And then he started to take another, and the goddess of fortune, Rukmini herself, stopped him. "Oh no, my lord, you've taken enough to satisfy the whole universe. You can't take any more. I'll be too indebted." So, what was interesting is Sudama, when he returned home, of course, he had discovered his little shack turned into this huge, beautiful palace. And his wife, he didn't even recognize her because she was dressed like a goddess. And even his neighbors had nice places. It was the whole neighborhood changed. But what was interesting is Sudama did have a problem. So don't think that if you give Krishna some chipped rice, you become wealthy. Sudama was proud of his poverty. He was proud of his austerity. So Krishna was teaching him a lesson that you don't have to be extremely poor, extremely austere to get his pleasure. It has nothing to do with that. It's about the love and the devotion. And that's how we get the attention of Krishna. That's how we get his pleasure. When we actually find that love in our heart, which is there. It's just covered over with unlimited lifetimes of nonsense. So, again, this verse, the 6th chapter, 4th verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam is, a person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Did anybody want to add anything or any questions or comments or complaints? Yes.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Very, very interesting talk, lecture. There's one thing I want to ask. When Krishna is the owner of everything, everything belongs to Krishna, why is he portrayed as the butter thief?
This was his rasa. This was his rasa. He enjoys these relationships. And even though it's hard to understand, but he enjoys the relationship he had with the inhabitants of Vrindavan, that he would go to their house and steal from them, and they would put a show on like, "Oh, we're really upset," but they're all hoping that Krishna would come to their house and and steal their butter. This is a relationship, and it's the same with Mother Yasoda. She loved Krishna so much there wasn't anything she wouldn't do for him, and she couldn't understand. They had these special cows that they fed special grass to, that they got this really opulent milk to make yogurt and butter for him, and still he would go and carry on like this. But this is his relationship. He loves these things. It's like fighting with the demons. He loves to fight. Krishna is a person. He's a supreme person, but he has desires, and he has a personality, and he has inclinations, things he likes to do. So, because he's God, he gets to do them. And then Yoga Maya, she supports all this by giving the environment and helping the devotees to forget who he is. Because Mother Yashoda never would have chased him with a stick, let alone tie him up, if she had any concept. Remember the time that she said, "Open your mouth, I want to see what you've been eating," when they complained he was eating dirt? And he opens his mouth, and she gets overwhelmed seeing the universe and the planets and the demigods, and shut your mouth now, and don't do that again. She didn't want any part of that consciousness. She wants to see him as her little baby.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. All righty, if there's no more questions, I guess we can end here. And we'll take shelter at Srila Prabhupada, who's brought us all this mercy in the form of his books. Vanchakalpatarubhishya kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoi Vaishnavinda ki jai.